All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today's topic is choosing the best adhesive for your synthetic turf installation. And our presenter is Justin DeLuca. Justin is a product manager for MAPEI Corporation, managing MAPEI's sports installation product line. He spent several years as a research chemist, focusing on new product development and innovation of floor covering installation products before moving into a product management role. His background knowledge and experience allow Justin to guide clients to the best products and practices in sports construction as well as landscape construction. Please note that we do have a question box, so if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to pop them in there, and then at the end, Justin will make sure to answer those. And without further ado, Justin, if you want to dive right in.
Sure. Thank you, Brianna. We appreciate it. Hello and welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to present this topic with you. We're all very excited about it. Be able to get together and learn a little bit more about synthetic turf adhesives and the installation method and the best practices that can be used for that. So we'll go ahead and get started. We have three objectives for this webinar. The first is going to be to understand basic types of synthetic turf, kind of what they look like, what they are, how they're used. We're going to go very, very basic there. We're also going to learn about MAPEI's turf installation product line. So this is all the products that MAPEI produces and markets that work very, very well to be able to have these successful installations. Then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of work together and we're going to determine how, in real life scenarios, you can pick the best synthetic turf adhesive for each type of installation. Now what this webinar is this is a general overview, of the turf, the installation methods, and the products. This is not an exhaustive guide of every different type of turf or every different way you could install it, every product you could use for it. If you need a more detailed guide, be happy to, you can always reach out to me. I'd highly recommend if you're looking for a guide for really detailed installation guidelines, I'd recommend the American Sports Builders Association. They have a 2024 construction maintenance manual that talks entirely about, field design and maintenance and whatnot. It's a very, very good reference. So if you ever have questions, I'd refer you to that manual. Very well put together. A lot of industry leaders involved in that. So kind of moving in, when you're starting to talk about turf installations, it's very, very important to understand what the application is. Not only will this affect the type of synthetic turf you're going to be purchasing for it, but also the type of adhesive you purchase and even how it's installed. So the first kind of subcategory, as we'll call it, would be sports facilities. So when I'm talking about sports facilities, I'm talking about, like football fields, soccer fields, baseball, lacrosse, all the way down to specialized multi-purpose fields where they're playing, a number of different sports on there. Now, synthetic turf, it really shines with sports facilities in particular because it provides an extremely consistent playing surface. You don't have all these undulations, and the speed of play isn't going to be affected like it would on a natural grass field. So you can imagine, trying to keep things really consistent with a natural grass field can be very challenging. So synthetic turf is going to be the same across the board. Synthetic turf is very long lasting. You have a great return to service time after inclement weather. I'm sure you've been at sports games in the past where you'll have a rain delay, and you might be there for 2 hours before they can get back out on the field, to allow the moisture to soak in. So it's really, really incredible how quickly you can get back onto those fields. And then obviously, the last big thing would be how good looking the playing surface is. It's going to be that consistent green or blue or whatever color you chose for the entire year. You're not going to deal with, drought-like conditions during the summer or grass going dormant, in the winter. So you have some additional flexibility there, which is nice. The other category that we're going to discuss is going to be landscape turf. So when I'm talking about landscape, I'm talking about, commercial, residential, or recreational. Now, it works very, very well for, especially commercial and residential because you have so much less maintenance required. And so the average homeowner isn't going to have to get out there, with their lawnmower every week and do all of that. The maintenance is a lot easier. So, less overall maintenance. You have obviously potential water savings there if you live in a more arid climate. I know a number of municipalities down in the southwest of the United States are offering, subsidies and whatnot for homeowners to start using synthetic turf because, everyone watering their lawns is putting a major strain on their water supply. And obviously, as with the sports facilities, you have great aesthetics. It looks great all year around. So as you can imagine, the best adhesive choice, it's going to vary greatly depending on the application. Some applications are going to require super high performance. You're talking about some of these contact sports like football or rugby. It's going to have a lot of wear and tear, and it's going to need to be very strong. But if you think about the majority of landscape applications, they're not going to receive nearly the amount of traffic and abuse and whatnot. So it's important to understand your application, to be able to target your installation materials to where they make sense. They're cost conscious, and they still provide you the performance that you need. So after you've determined what your application is going to look like, we're going to look a little bit more on what synthetic turf looks like. And since I deal on the installation side, on the adhesive side, I'm concerned mainly in what the back of the turf looks like because that's what you're going to be adhering to. So there's a great variety in turf backings. This is, as I mentioned, this is not every type of turf backing, but we're just going to go through a handful of them, kind of explain what those differences look like. So some turf is manufactured with like an attached foam pad on the back. It has the advantage of kind of having that built-in cushion layer. It's nice and consistent. It eliminates the need for a large amount of infill or like an E-layer underneath the turf. These backings are generally very smooth, very uniform. Because they're so smooth, they generally don't require that much adhesive to bond to them. There's not many undulations in there. It's pretty consistent. Now, the majority of turf backings are going to be comprised of the fiber tufts. They're actually woven through a backing, and they're actually coated with a polyurethane product. You can see these two images just show you a couple of different options. You can see there's a lot of variation on these. The stitch rows and whatnot can be very, very different. But these do provide a very, very stable and durable product, but they do have kind of a rougher backing on them, which can be a little bit more difficult to bond to. So they're typically going to require a little bit more adhesive just so you have good contact up into the various dips and rises, the undulations of the turf backing in order to be able to get kind of your strong bond there. And the last one I'll discuss today is another major backing type, which is like a fully woven type backing. You can see this product image on the bottom right. You can see it's completely woven. You don't have any urethane sprayed on there or anything like that. These backings are very, very durable. They work quite well. But as you can imagine and see right there, once again, you're probably going to need to use a little bit more adhesive on these just so you have good contact points across the entire backing of the product. So now we understand a little bit more about what synthetic turf looks like. I'm going to kind of walk you through some considerations that that the installer needs to kind of think about when they're looking to do a synthetic turf installation. The first big one is going to be how is the product used? So the type of usage. Gotta think about it. Is this a sports product? Will it have an extreme sport played on it like football or rugby, where you're going to have 300-pound linemen out there pushing on it and driving weighted sleds and whatnot? Or is it going to be, closer to like a landscape application, but it might have, a lot of foot traffic or vehicular traffic? So it's very important to obviously understand what your installation is going to be used for to be able to determine your best product there. And another thing you need to think about is the environment, not only the environment when you're installing, but also what it's going to look like during usage. So, what is the temperature, humidity, the weather cycles? What do those look like while you're out there installing and 6 months down the road? If it's an indoor application, is the building's HVAC going to be fully activated? If it's an outdoor application, is it going to be really, really cold, really, really hot, very humid? Do we have storms, in the forecast? All these factors are going to influence, how you're going to install your product and give you the best, not only the product, but the application method. Now, another big consideration you need to think about is time frame. Is it a really, really tight time frame before you are expecting traffic back out on that field? You're going to be very short. Do you need to look into, various fast track solutions to be able to get the end user the product that they need? It's something that certainly needs to be in your consideration there. And obviously there's cost. Unfortunately, as with many things in life, the best or highest performance products, they also tend to be a little more expensive. So what's the budget for the project? We want to match up, the grade of turf, the grade of adhesive to whatever the project is. So you are getting, good bang for the buck there. It's very cost critical, but also, you have a successful installation in the end. And one other thing that really needs to be considered is how big is your install crew? How much manpower do you have available when you're putting this in? Is it going to be really tight? Or are you going to have, some additional guys out there on the job with you to help you out? That's going to make a big impact on what products you choose to install and how efficient that installation is going to be. So now that we kind of understand, some of those considerations, let's talk a little bit about how synthetic turf is installed. So as with everything in this presentation, there's going to be some exceptions to this rule. But typically turf is going to be installed in one of two ways. It's either going to be a full spread application. That's typically going to be either smaller installation areas or with synthetic turf that has that attached pad like we saw that picture of earlier? Or is it going to be a seamed installation where the adhesive is only going between seams of turf, and then it's going to be adhered around the perimeter of the field? So that's typically going to be more of your heavier contact sports, football, soccer, baseball. You do have some landscape done this way as well. Now, you see these two options and you're sitting there wondering, well, a full spread, a full glue down, it's going to require a lot more adhesive. How do I get away with it for some of these, but not others? Well, typically this turf is designed in one of two ways. Typically your full spread turf uses either just a small amount or none at all of an infill system like sand or rubber granules or cork, some sort of combination. And they put quite a bit into that field. A lot of times it's somewhere between 12 and 15 pounds a square foot. Now, full spread application, it's typically using that attached pad turf, and generally that only uses a very small amount of infill if it uses any at all. So it doesn't have the same ballast, the same weight kind of holding it down. So because you don't have that weight, you're going to be using that adhesive there. So that's those are the two main types of installation methods. And as you might be able to kind of tell already, they're going to take a very different installation method, different adhesives, and a different style to make it work well for you. Now, there's just a couple different types of major installation types when we're talking about these two types of applications. So when we're talking about, seamed adhesives, you can see a couple pictures here. This is where they're running a long seam between two very large pieces of turf. They're actually using a glue box, so it's a box that has like a notched trowel on it, and they can actually pull the tape up underneath, and it applies the adhesive nicely there for you. And you can do very, very long runs. As I kind of already indicated, it's typically used for major sports fields, some landscape applications. You also have inlays. So I'm sure you gone to football or soccer games and whatnot, where you can see the lines out there on the field. Many times on higher end fields, this is actually a separate piece of synthetic turf. So they actually get out there and they basically put it together kind of like a puzzle piece where it's separate. In this case, some of these are all white, some are white with a blue outline, and they're actually putting them in. So they're coming in, and it takes a certain level of art to be able to get that right. But that's kind of what the inlay method looks like. And of course, you have full spread methods. So normally they're going to use some form of a spray machine. You see the large, Graco type spray machines. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So you can see, they're putting it down relatively thickly and is going underneath the entire area underneath that turf. So now that we kind of understand what some of this turf looks like, how it's installed, we're going to switch gears and we're going to take a look at our product offering. So MAPEI kind of offers two different styles of installation products. We have our synthetic sports turf installation products. That's these. We'll go through these, and then we're going to kind of switch gears and we're going to look at our landscape products. So looking over the product line that we have right here, almost all of it is urethane-based adhesives. Now, we've chosen this for a very specific reason. And one of those reasons would be, it's a very quick application. Urethane does form an excellent bond, very, very strong. We can offer that in a number of different formats. The urethane bond is a chemical bond, so it doesn't deteriorate, in rain and over time and whatnot. It's very, very durable. And also, all these products you see on your screen are all non-flammable, so they're not solvent-based. So they're, obviously better for the environment, better for the installers out there, and those that are actually out, playing on that field later on. Now, as I mentioned, these are all, the adhesives that MAPEI offers. There are other ways of installing, synthetic turf. An older method that's still used today, but it's a little bit less every year, is a sew-in method. So if you can imagine, they basically bring out these great big sewing machines onto these fields, and they sew the individual pieces of turf together. So as you can imagine, this brings, they have to bring very specialized equipment in. The guys who do this are very, very good at their job. It takes a lot of years of experience to get good at it. It is very time consuming, because think about all the linear feet that you're going to be using those big sewing machines on. It's going to be hard to get, real good bond between those sometimes, and it can loosen over time. So there are definitely some disadvantages to this method, but it is still used heavily today. They also use, nails and stakes sometimes, where they'll actually just stake the turf down to the substrate. This can be very time consuming. There's not really any standard for strength. You put your stake in one spot and the dirt below is rather loose. Put another one in and you're going to have to use a hammer out there to really get it in. So some areas might be very well adhered down, some areas not so much. The main disadvantage of this is these stakes could work their way back up. They could loosen over time, makes them rather dangerous for the user. Another method would be hot melt adhesives. So these are the same adhesive you've used in arts and crafts before. It's an adhesive that you basically have to melt down and you apply, and then as it cools back down, it hardens. Once again, you're going to need very specialized equipment for that. You're dealing with a hot adhesive, so you have risk of burning. It can be somewhat difficult to clean, and then those adhesives, some of them can tend to soften or become a little brittle over time. So there's some disadvantages to hot melt adhesives. Then the final type, of installation product would be a solvent-based adhesive. Of course, if it has solvent, you have the issue of flammability. It can be a little bit difficult to work with, potentially harmful in some cases. It can be very expensive to ship. So, kind of as mentioned, all of MAPEI's synthetic sports turf product line, it all has VOC certification. We all carry an SCS Indoor Advantage Gold certification. We're basically, we're compliant with any South Coast air quality management rules. So it's a very green product. You have a lot of good potential there, and it's much less harmful than some of the alternatives out there. So we'll very briefly run through each of these adhesives, and it's good, it's bad, it's ugly, and give you an idea of where they're used. So the first product we'll look through is Ultrabond Turf PU1K. This is kind of the gold standard adhesive on the sports installation side. It's single component. It's a moisture cure urethane. So basically the curing mechanism on this requires moisture in the air. That acts as the catalyst and actually creates a hard bond, a hard cure. So you need to have some moisture in the air for this to work. Part of that mechanism is it does actually swell a little bit, which can be very beneficial on some of those turf designs that we looked at earlier, where you have a lot of undulations, a lot of changes in the back end of the turf. But with it being able to swell, if you have a lot of moisture in the air, it's very, very humid, you could have some excessive swelling. So you have to be kind of mindful of this one. Now, Turf P1K, it's ideal for any sports turf application. Forms an extremely strong bond, excellent cured strength. It's extremely flexible, and we offer it in a couple of different sizes, 1 and 5 gallon pails. And we've modified the viscosity to where this can be easily applied with a glue box, like we saw earlier. Makes those big installations go a lot faster, rather than getting down on your hands and knees and troweling out these products. Kind of switching gears. Ultrabond Turf PU2K. So the 2K refers to two component. So it's 2-component urethane. This uses a chemical catalyst. So it's no longer using the moisture in the air. So you're not going to have the weather limitations that you had with the 1-component urethane, because that has zero swell. So if you're dealing with a turf that is very very smooth across the bottom, it might work a little bit better for that. Once again, just like the other product, can be used for any type of sports turf. This has great cured strength. It's slightly less flexible than the PU1K, so if you're dealing with an application where you need a lot of flexibility, this may, the PU1K might be a better product. We offer this in 2 and 4 gallon encompassed kits. So basically that means, you have your pail, it has a tray in there, and you have your part B up and top. So you can just open up that pail, you can pour out the part B down to the bottom of it, you get out your mixer and mix it all up. It's nice, you don't have to try to remember to bring a mixing pail and all that. It's all kind of nicely contained, nice little package. We also offer a cold weather accelerator. So basically this is an extra small little bottle there. You can see it on your screen. It's a little 6-ounce bottle. You can pour that in there. It acts as an extra catalyst in real cold weather, be able to help it cure a little faster and get you moving on the job a little bit faster. Another product we have is Ultrabond Turf PU1K LV. The LV stands for low viscosity. So this is a pourable product. It's real low viscosity. It's easy to pour. Because of that, you can actually use an airless pump. I think we saw a picture earlier of using those big airless pumps to be able to spray out a large area in a short amount of time. As with the rest of these products, this is non-flammable, solvent-free, has minimal swell, so a little bit less swell than the regular Turf PU1K. This product is really ideal for, curbs and edges or full spread systems, be able to give you kind of that flexibility you need. It's a highly flexible product, so if you have some sort of application where it kind of needs to bend and move around, you have some extra flexibility there. We offer this in a bunch of different sizes, so anywhere from a 32-ounce squeeze bottle, the little jobs, all the way up to a 55-gallon drum, and sizes in between. So a lot of flexibility depending on how your installation needs to be put together. Another product that we offer is Ultrabond Turf P1K HV. The HV stands for high viscosity, so this is a little bit thicker, if you want to call it that. And it comes in a 29-ounce caulking tube. So this is like a gun-grade adhesive. You can put it in that caulking tube, and you can gun it out, and it maintains a nice bead structure. It works really well. It doesn't just flow out at the end and whatnot. This is really good for repairs and kind of tight to get to areas. It's very fast setting. Now, as I'd kind of indicated earlier today, with all of these, we do recommend seaming tape. We do offer our Ultrabond Turf tape. So this is a non-woven PET type tape. It's extremely strong, extremely durable. It's permeable. We offer that in a couple different sizes. The 12-inch by 330 foot, that's typically what you're going to use for seams on big turf fields. Meanwhile, the 60-inch by 100 feet, it's normally used for like those inlays that you saw there where you need a large area to be able to bond to. Then the last product out of the sports line is going to be the Ultrabond Turf Epoxy Repair. You can see this is kind of a nifty product. It comes in a 2-component cartridge. So this is a 2-component epoxy, has the chemical catalyst already in there. This cures extremely quickly, and the weather doesn't really affect it. So you can get out there and you can have a cured product in less than 60 minutes. With it being a 2-component, it doesn't have any swell, very strong, can be used with any type of turf. This is a nice repair adhesive if you have, some inlays starting to come up in the middle of a game. You can get out there and get it back down and be able to have people out there, within an hour. Or, any type of small repair job where you don't want to try to bring out a trowel and a bucket of adhesive and this and that. You have an additional flexibility there. So now that we've talked about, our sports turf line, we'll take a look at our landscape or like our golf type turf. Because, if you think about it, Mrs. Smith is putting this in her backyard. She's not going to have any 300-pound linemen out there, grinding on that seam. She's going to have real light traffic, maybe a dog out there playing around. She does not need something super over-engineered, super strong. She needs something that's going to be durable, but a little bit more cost-effective. So that's why we kind of brought this synthetic landscape line together, something a little bit easier for the end user to use and a little bit less expensive to be able to help them out. Just like with the sports turf products, these are all SCS Indoor Advantage Gold certified. So they all have the same VOC requirements, ultra low VOCs. They're not harmful to the environment, so you have some additional advantages there. So the first product out of that line we'll discuss is the Ultrabond Turf MS. This one's a very special product. This is a single component epoxy modified silane urethane adhesive. So if you know anything about chemistry, there's a couple different types of chemistries that can be used to form adhesives. This product is basically a hybrid of all of those different types, and it has some serious advantages there. So not only is it single component and moisture cured, but it also has zero swell. Just like I talked about, the Turf P1K can kind of swell up if it's really humid out. We won't have any of that with the Turf MS. It has very high tack, so it has kind of an initial tack, and it has good open time. So that tack allows it to be able to kind of go over, undulations. If you have some sort of like a curb system, or rises and dips, this allows it'll kind of hold the turf in place while the rest of the thing cures out and cures hard. This is good for any type of turf backing. It's extremely flexible, but it is very durable. And we offer this in 4-gallon pails. So if you need to do seaming with it, it will also work through a glue box. Now we have the Ultrabond Landscape Turf CG. CG stands for commercial grade. So this is kind of the standard grade that's used for our residential or landscape type installations. It's still urethane based, so it's moisture cure, has minimal swell, even when you have excessive moisture out there. This will work for seaming or full spread applications. And it's all weather resistant, just like the other products. Has fantastic final cure strength. Works really well for anything from a rooftop application to a pet area to an airport. And we offer this in a couple different sizes, both the 1-gallon and 4-gallon pails. Now the 1 gallon comes with a small little trowel on the top. It's kind of nice to be able to have a nice little package there, so you don't have to try to bring extra equipment onto the job site. Okay, and then finally, we also offer a seaming tape for the landscape side. So this uses a very, very similar product as the larger turf tape. So it still is a non-woven PET. It's still permeable. We offer this in some smaller sizes that make more sense for the landscape applications. So several different sizes there gives you nice flexibility depending on the size of your job, the size of the seams, so that you're not out there toting a massive roll of seam tape for, Mrs. Smith's backyard. So that concludes, our overall product lines. We're gonna spend the last little bit here to talk about a couple different hypothetical case studies. So I wanted you to have the opportunity to be able to kind of talk through how I would go through the process of choosing the right turf installation product, the right adhesive for these type of applications, to kind of give you a little bit of practice on how we go through to determine the best product that's going to be cost effective but work with all the conditions you have set in front of you. So for this first case study, you've been asked to install 20,000 square feet of attached pad turf. So attached pad is going to be a full glue down type application. This is going to be going into an outdoor covered football practice facility. So you can think about, a good school's football team and whatnot. A lot of times they'll have a little practice field off to the side. This is going to be installed in northern Florida in April. The school wants to be able to have people back out on this field within 2 days, and your overall crew size is 5 people. So we'll go ahead and walk through this and talk about how we use this information to judge the best product to use here. So right off the bat, we're talking about football here and being a practice facility. So we know we're going to need to use a high performance product on this because you're going to have some serious weight and some serious movement on this. You're going to have weighted sleds running across this, etc. So we don't want to lean too heavily towards an inferior quality product. We want to do high performance on this. So right off the bat, I'm kind of leaning towards a couple products here. Either the 2-component sports turf product, the Ultrabond Turf PU2K, or the Ultrabond Turf PU1K LV. It's sprayable. Now, I'm kind of leaning towards the low viscosity product because I know if I'm going to glue all this down, I don't really want to get down and trowel out 20,000 square feet of adhesive. So I can find a way to use equipment, I'm going to move that direction. So we have some general information there. Now let's talk about what the environment looks like. Think about northern Florida in April. It's pretty mild. Probably gonna have an average high of around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe an average low of around 60. and it's going to be moderate humidity. It's not going to be incredibly low or incredibly high. It's going to be kind of middle of the ground there. So with the mild weather and having the available moisture in the air for it, I'm going to be leaning more heavily towards the Turf PU1K LV, the sprayable product. If we're thinking about the return to traffic time, or when we're going to have people out on the field, this product has a 12-hour light traffic or 24-hour heavy traffic time. So in other words, if I installed this on a Friday, by Saturday afternoon, it's good to go. So we have no problems in meeting that 2-day return to traffic time. And then finally, the install crew size. This is a slightly smaller crew. So, if I'm talking about either a 2-component product or 1 component, the 2 components going to require some mixing. So if I don't have a large crew and I don't want to have to task, one of those guys to do most of the mixing there, I'm going to be leaning more towards, a 1-component product that's going to take a little bit less work on at the time. So based off the information provided here, my recommendation would in fact be the Ultrabond Turf P1K LV. It's the best application for this case study here. So now we'll look at another example here. This one's going to be a 120,000 square foot seamed outdoor soccer field. This is going to be in southern Arizona in November. The school wants it to be available for traffic within 1 day. You have a slightly larger install crew of 7 people on this. So right off the bat, I know they're going to be playing soccer on this. So I'm going to be looking for a product that, has FIFA rated, performance. It's a very strong product. I don't want to have any problems down the road with that. So right off the bat, knowing it needs to be, high performance, and I'm going to be seaming this field together. I'm going to be looking either at the Ultrabond Turf PU2K or the Ultrabond Turf PU1K, both of which can be done with a glue box. So make my job a little easier there. Thinking about the location, here we are in southern Arizona in November. Average high is probably around 70 degrees. Average low is 40, but it is extremely low humidity. So there's not very much humidity out in the air for the adhesive to be able to work with if we're talking about a 1-component product. So with the mild weather but the low humidity, I'm going to be leaning more towards the Ultrabond Turf PU2K. Of course, the advantage with the PU2K is not only does it need that humidity, but I also have some accelerator I can use if needed if I have a cold snap come in. So, it's looking like I have a lot more flexibility, a lot more consistency with that product in this case. Available return to traffic time, once again, very similar. Return to traffic time of 12 hours for light, 24 hours for heavy traffic. So either adhesive would work in this case. And then if I have an install crew of 7, that's a fairly large crew. If I have that much manpower, it'd probably be pretty easy for me to task, one of the junior workers to do the mixing. So because of that, I'm probably going to move to the 2-component, the Ultrabond Turf PU2K. It's going to be a little more cost effective, and also it'll be a lot more consistent for this job. So that would be my recommendation for this case. And our last case study is going to be Mrs. Tucker's backyard. So a small application here. We have 9,000 square feet of seamed backyard landscape turf. She's putting this in for her dog Max. We'll say he's a 70-pound black lab. He's a good boy. This is in western Pennsylvania in July. This has an available traffic time, so they want light traffic to be able to get back out here within 12 hours. And an install crew of 2 people. So it's just you and a buddy out there trying to get this product down. So if we're thinking about the application here, obviously we want to use a quality product. It is going to have some traffic on it, but Max is not going to be that aggressive on it. So you don't need any products that are going to offer extreme performance here. Thinking about where it's located, in Western Pennsylvania in July, average high is probably about 83 degrees, average low is about 64, pretty moderate humidity. Um, Given, the fact that we have good humidity available and it's not going to be an extreme case, I'm definitely going to be leaning towards our Ultrabond Landscape Turf CG as a good product for this. Um, we're looking at the available traffic time. They're wanting, 12 hours because, Max is going to have to get out there and do his business and whatnot. That should be just fine with this product, but you will want to let the homeowner know, to probably wait at least 24 hours before doing anything, like playing fetch with the dog or, driving a truck back there. Give that adhesive a little bit more time to cure so it doesn't affect the overall performance of the application. The last thing we're going to think about is your install crew. Very small crew. I don't want to try to be mixing a two-component product for this. The Ultrabond Landscape Turf CG is very easy to use. So given all the information I have here, that's definitely the recommendation I would make for this. So that concludes, the overall presentation. I hope that hopefully I didn't talk too long here, but I wanted to make sure you understood, the different types of turf there were, how they're installed, what MAPEI can offer, and then how we go through the process of figuring out, the best product and matching it up well. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Brianna.
Awesome. Excellent presentation. So we did get a few questions. The first one, what products would you suggest a contractor keep in the truck for when small repairs are needed?
Sure, that's a great question. If I were a contractor, either for, residential or for, a sports facility, I'd always recommend keeping, some of our smaller format adhesives, maybe like our Ultrabond Turf PU1K HV, so that's the 29-ounce cartridge, or we have the Turf PU1K LV, which is a 32-ounce squeeze bottle. You have that in the truck, and you can also have, any one of either our Ultrabond Turf tape or our landscape tape. That gives you a lot of flexibility to handle any of those type of small little repair jobs. It's nice to be able to just keep in the truck and have them available to you.
Great. Next question we have, do you offer any solvent-based turf adhesives?
No, we do not. Kind of as I'd mentioned earlier, those are options out there for sure, but they have a lot of inherent danger. With that solvent in there, it could be flammable, it could be harmful to your person and environment. So we stick in with a completely solvent-free product line here.
Excellent. Our next question, what product do you recommend for applying synthetic turf to raised baseball pitching mounds?
That's a great question. So anytime you have some sort of application where you're going to have to go up and over surfaces or kind of adhere to an odd substrate like that, I'm going to recommend our Ultrabond Turf MS. That works really well. It has that kind of green tack there, something that's going to hold it there and allow the adhesive to cure properly.
Great. And we just had another question come through. Any concerns with certain maintenance methods?
Um, Might need a little bit more information on that one. Most maintenance methods are going to work fine. Typically, talking about like a sports field, you're going to be using some form of a rake, basically to work on the infill. With any of those type of products, I'm really not concerned. The adhesive is very, very strong. If it's any sort of more advanced maintenance, I'd have to have a little bit more information on that. But I don't see any concerns offhand anyways.
Great. And just one more question before we wrap up. When I'm doing installations in cold weather, what is the best product to use?
That's a great question. So typically, if I'm dealing with a cold weather application, um, I would probably recommend our Ultrabond Turf PU2K, and use that with our catalyst accelerator. So basically, you aren't reliant on any moisture in the air. It's going to be very, very consistent. You can add that accelerator in there to, help it cure a little bit faster, so it'll be real consistent and do the job for you, so you can get the job done and get back off the field and let play start happening again.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Justin. It was a great presentation. For anyone else who has any questions that might pop up in the next few days, feel free to reach out to us at MAPEIDigital@mapei.com, and we'll make sure we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.